There's a particular loneliness that comes from being the person everyone leans on. Not the kind that makes you feel isolated in a crowd, but the kind that whispers to you at 3 in the morning when you're still awake, solving problems that aren't yours, carrying weight that was never meant for your shoulders alone. And the cruelest part, nobody knows. They can't see it because you've become invisible in your own competence. If you've ever caught yourself saying, "I'm fine, I've got it," when everything inside you was screaming otherwise, this is for you. Because what we're about to explore isn't about stubbornness or pride, though those words get thrown around a lot. It's something far deeper. It's about a negotiation your nervous system made a very long time ago, probably when you were young enough that you didn't have words for what was happening. A negotiation that made perfect sense then, but has calcified into a prison now. Let me paint a picture you might recognize. You're drowning, but you're drowning quietly. The deadlines are multiplying like rabbits. Your energy is somewhere below zero. People are asking things of you that you can barely manage. And when someone, usually someone who loves you and can see the exhaustion in your face, asks if you need help, something strange happens inside your body. It's not relief, it's not gratitude, it's closer to panic, a tightening in your chest, a flash of something that feels almost like offense, even though they meant nothing but kindness. So you smile, you tell them you're handling it, and you watch them accept that and walk away, and part of you is relieved they didn't push, while another part of you feels a deep, aching abandonment, as if their acceptance of your refusal somehow confirmed something you've always believed, that your struggle isn't worth their inconvenience, that needing help is inherently burdensome, that the only way to be worthy of love is to be the one who gives it, never the one who receives it. This isn't a character flaw. This is survival architecture, and to understand it, we have to go back. Somewhere in your past, and I mean really back there, in the formation years when your personality was still being written, something happened. Maybe multiple things. You reached out. Maybe you were crying or scared or just overwhelmed by something that felt enormous at the time. You showed someone your struggle. You made yourself vulnerable in the way children do so naturally, without the complicated calculations adults learn. And what happened next got logged into your nervous system like a password that would unlock your future behavior. Maybe the person dismissed you. You were told to stop being so sensitive, so dramatic, so needy. Maybe they got frustrated impatience reading as rejection through a child's eyes. Maybe they were simply unavailable, emotionally or physically. They had their own things going on, their own struggles, and there was no space for yours. Or maybe, and this one is particularly insidious, they made it clear that your needs were an interruption to their peace, that your vulnerability was an inconvenience they had to manage. And here's what's important to understand. Your nervous system is extraordinarily good at pattern recognition. Better than any artificial intelligence we've built, it noticed that reaching out led to disappointment, or worse, rejection, or at best, a kind of coldness that felt like being turned away. And your system did what it's designed to do. It protected you. It created a new rule written in the language of survival. Needing people is dangerous. So you adapted. If they couldn't help you, you'd help yourself. You became the capable one, the one who figures it out, the one who doesn't make other people uncomfortable with neediness. You probably got praised for this too. You're so independent. You're so mature for your age. You never ask for anything. And those words, meant as compliments, became chains. Because now you had proof. This strategy worked. People liked you more when you needed them less. Love, it seemed, was transactional. You had to earn it by being useful, by being strong, by never being a burden. The sad and quietly stunning reality is that this adaptation probably served you incredibly well for a very long time. It got you through childhood. It made you the friend people could rely on. It made you the employee who gets things done. It made you the partner who holds space for everyone else's emotions while your own went unwitnessed. For years, maybe decades, this strategy was your superpower. It kept you safe. It kept you functioning. It kept you from the vulnerability that had hurt before. But, and this is the moment where the narrative shifts, what you adapted to when you were small and powerless is now running your life at full strength, even though the circumstances have entirely changed. This is what's so insidious about this pattern. The inability to ask for help isn't just a behavior anymore. It's not something you're choosing consciously. It's become woven into your identity. It's become the architecture of how you see yourself. You are the capable one. You are the strong one. You are the one people rely on. And admitting that you can't handle something, that you need help, that your shoulders aren't wide enough to carry everything alone, that feels like admitting that you're not who you think you are. It feels like a total collapse. There's research on this, actually. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology by Flynn and Lake found something fascinating. People dramatically underestimate how willing others are to help them. We're talking about a 50% gap in some cases. We walk around genuinely believing that asking for help is exponentially more burdensome than it actually is. The data shows one thing. Our nervous system believes another, and the nervous system wins every time. But here's where it gets more complicated. Even if you knew those statistics, even if someone sat you down and showed you the research and proved logically that people generally want to help, it wouldn't change how you feel. Because this isn't an information problem. This is an emotional architecture problem. When you've spent 10 years, 20 years, 30 years building an identity around not needing help, asking for it doesn't feel like a simple transaction. It doesn't feel like a practical solution to a practical problem. It feels like a threat to everything you've built. Like if you admit you can't handle this one thing, the whole image collapses. The competent one is gone. The self-sufficient one is revealed as a fraud, and everyone will see you differently. So instead, you run on fumes. You stay up too late solving problems alone that a 5-minute conversation could have resolved. You tell yourself you'll ask when things get really bad. But really bad keeps getting redefined because your threshold for suffering quietly just keeps rising. The bar keeps moving higher. What would have been really bad 3 years ago is now just Tuesday. And you're still managing, still handling, still fine. The cruelest part of all of this, the part that nobody really talks about, is that the more competent you become, the more invisible your struggle becomes to everyone around you. It's a vicious cycle. People stop checking in because you always seem fine. You've trained them so well to believe it that they've internalized the message. Your friends don't ask anymore because your answer is always the same. Your family assumes you don't need them. Your partner stops trying to reach past the walls because they've been told, again and again, that there's nothing on the other side of them worth reaching for. And so you become profoundly, impossibly alone, not because people don't care, but because you've been so convincing in your self-sufficiency that nobody knows they're allowed to care. There's something else happening in your relationships, two romantic ones, friendships, family dynamics, something that's rarely named but profoundly impactful. For people who can't ask for help, there's often a specific dynamic at play. They give, and they give genuinely, not always consciously, but there's a pattern. Giving feels safe. Giving feels like control. Giving keeps you in a position of power where you're not vulnerable. If you're the one helping someone else, You're not the one being helped. You're not exposed. You're not at risk of rejection. You're needed, and being needed is the closest thing to secure attachment some people have ever actually known. But giving without receiving creates an invisible ledger. Over time, the relationship becomes lopsided in a way that neither person fully understands. The giver starts to feel unseen, even though they're the one giving. The other person feels guilty without knowing exactly why. They can sense the imbalance but can't articulate it. And the giver can't say anything because, well, asking for more feels impossible. We've established that. So, they either quietly resent or quietly leave. They take their care and their love and their presence somewhere else, where maybe it will be received the way it was meant to be. And the person left behind feels abandoned, not realizing they pushed everyone away by refusing to let them in. This is where the pattern becomes truly tragic, because it's self-fulfilling. Your fear of rejection creates the conditions for rejection. Your belief that needing people is dangerous becomes the thing that makes relationships actually dangerous. You're protected, yes, but protection that complete is indistinguishable from isolation. But here's what needs to happen next, and it's not what most transformation content tells you. They'll promise you a breakthrough moment, a single conversation that changes everything, a lightning bolt realization that rewires your entire nervous system. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this actually works. What moves the needle, what actually starts to unwind this pattern, is something far quieter and infinitely more powerful. It's repeated, tiny experiences of asking for something small and surviving it. It's noticing that the person didn't pull away. It's discovering almost accidentally that they weren't burdened, that you're still whole after being seen as someone who needed something. That vulnerability didn't destroy you, that reaching out didn't result in abandonment. These aren't dramatic moments. They're accumulations. They're the friend who helps you move and doesn't resent you for it. It's the partner who holds you while you cry and doesn't think less of you. It's asking a colleague to review something you're unsure about and realizing that asking didn't make you weak, it made you wise. Each one is a small data point that contradicts the old rule your nervous system learned. Each one is a gentle rewriting of what's possible. But there's also grief in this process, and that might sound strange at first. A lot of people who never ask for help are carrying unprocessed grief they haven't named. Grief for the younger version of themselves who did ask and wasn't met. Grief for the way they had to grow up faster than they should have. Grief for all the connections they couldn't fully have because they wouldn't fully let themselves be known. That grief needs to be felt, not just understood intellectually, until it gets acknowledged somewhere in your body, not just your mind. The old protective strategy stays in place. Because it was protecting someone you used to be, and it deserves to be thanked before it steps aside. The identity piece is enormous too. When I handle things myself, has been the load-bearing wall of yourself, worth for decades. Dismantling it doesn't mean you lose yourself. You're not disappearing, you're rebuilding with better materials. You're constructing a version of yourself that includes the radical, genuinely difficult idea that your needs are not a burden. That depending on people isn't weakness, that the capacity to receive is just as mature, just as powerful, just as necessary as the capacity to give. Most of us were never taught that, and you can't learn what was never shown to you, but you can learn it now. Picture this for a moment. You're at work. You've taken on more than you can realistically handle. A colleague notices they can see it in the way you're moving, in the slight tremor of overwhelm behind your eyes. They stop by your desk and ask gently, "Do you want me to take something off your plate?" And something strange happens inside you. Before the old panic, before the refusal, before the smile, there's a pause, a moment where you notice the panic, where you recognize the impulse to say, "I'm fine," and instead of being swept away by it, you sit with it for just a second, long enough to realize that accepting help isn't a failure, that this person isn't trying to expose you as weak. They're simply offering what they would want offered to them. So you take a breath and you say yes. It's not dramatic, it's not a movie moment, but it's everything, because healing isn't about becoming someone different. It's about finally becoming someone whole. It's about understanding that the strength you developed by doing everything alone was never meant to be your entire identity. It was a bridge, a temporary structure that got you from a place of danger to a place of safety, and now it's time to step off it. You were not built to carry everything alone, nobody is, and the people in your life who would show up for you, they do exist. You've just been so good at not needing them that they don't know you need them. That's not their failure. It's not yours either. It's just what happens when we protect ourselves so completely that we become unreachable, even to the people who love us most. The next thing to work on isn't fixing yourself. You're not broken. The next thing is learning slowly, gently, one small ask at a time, that being human means being interdependent. It means sometimes being the giver, and sometimes, equally, being the receiver. It means letting yourself be known. If this story resonated with you, if somewhere in these words you recognized yourself, the exhaustion, the invisible walls, the loneliness of being fine, I want you to know you're not alone in this. Not even close. There are thousands of people right now watching this, feeling that same tightening in their chest, that same recognition. And maybe, just maybe, that's the first step, knowing that what you've been carrying is something so many others have carried too. If this reached you, subscribe, not because I need you to, but because there are more stories like this waiting for you. More explorations of why we are the way we are. More permission to be human. More gentle reminders that you deserve to be witnessed, to be helped, to be loved not for what you do, but for who you are. You deserve that, and it's never too late to let yourself receive it.